Chapter 1 Genius Uzumaki Naruto. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Jinyang Spiritual Arts Academy. Registration Office, a wooden sign declared, turn left. Naruto Uzumaki stared at the sign and took a deep breath. This wasn't some trial by fire, but a school for cultivating soul reapers. Failure wouldn't be punished, he could just register again next year, but Naruto wasn't exactly a fan of school. His last run-in with school was 3 years back. He was in another world then, stuck in ninja school in a village called Konoha. He was the bottom of the barrel, the kid everyone hated. Nobody wanted to be his friend, and the teachers couldn't stand him. It wasn't just at school either. The whole village of Konoha felt the same way. Even the shops and convenience stores gave him the cold shoulder, except for Ichiraka Ramen, the only place that would serve him. That's why Naruto didn't like school, but he had a reason to sign up for this one. This place, unlike Konoha, was another world, the Soul Society, where souls went after they died. He hadn't gone through any soul burial ritual like the other souls talked about, but Naruto got the gist. Being here means you're dead. Death freaked people out, but Naruto took it in stride. He quickly grew to like this place, no random yelling or hate directed specifically at him. The shops welcomed him with open arms since he had money, and plenty of people were willing to be his friends, and most importantly, after death, souls ended up in the Soul Society, meaning he was finally in the same world as his parents. The only catch was that souls weren't born in a fixed location. Hokage had 360 districts, so the odds of being born in the same one were 1 in 360. Naruto had spent 3 years searching his district, but he couldn't find his parents, so he had to become a Soul Reaper. He had to become a big shot, like a captain, with a whole team to help him search, or get his name plastered all over the Soul Society. Then he'd be sure to find them. Naruto Uzumaki walked through the school gates with the crowd and filled out the registration form. Following the upperclassmen in their blue and white uniforms, they headed to a gymnasium. Once they hit 200, the gym doors slammed shut. Ryatsu, spiritual power, is the foundation of a Soul Reaper, an official Soul Reaper announced. Clad in the black robes and carrying a sword, he was a stark contrast to the nervous students. Only souls with Ryatsu are qualified to study at Jinyang Spiritual Arts Academy. I'll call your name, and you'll step forward. The rest, wait. The test was simple. Each person just placed their hand on a crystal ball, and the Soul Reaper announced a level based on the light it emitted. Most got a curt fail. Those who passed were only at levels like 17th grade or 18th grade, which didn't impress the Soul Reaper. A few scraped by with 11th grade or 12th grade, and the Soul Reaper's face softened a little. Lower numbers were clearly better. Naruto was near the end of the line. He watched as one person after another was labeled unqualified, and the occasional individual was deemed qualified. He couldn't help but clench his fists until his knuckles turned white. He knew some of the people ahead of him. He'd crossed paths with some, winning some, losing others. They either failed or barely passed with scores like 18 or 19. Then there were the famous guys he'd never actually met. One woman, who could barely manipulate spiritual power to turn dirt into sand, only got a 12th grade. It all came down to talent, but Naruto found it hard to believe he had any. If he did, he wouldn't have been hated in ninja school. He'd have been like Sasuke Uchiha, loved by teachers and classmates. Even with his grumpy face, he needed at least a 20. To get in, anyway. Finally, the Soul Reaper called his name, Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto walked forward, his steps heavy. He put his hand on the crystal ball like everyone else. The Soul Reaper glanced over, ready to write down an 18, 19, or fail. But then, something completely different happened. The crystal ball erupted in a blinding light, intense and searing. The Soul Reaper's eyes went wide. He dropped his brush, not even noticing when it landed in the dirt. The lazy Soul Reaper snapped to attention, practically leaping to his feet. Hold on a minute. A murmur ran through the gym. These souls, not yet Soul Reapers, didn't know what 5th level meant, but nobody before him had even cracked the 10th level, proving just how amazing this was. The Soul Reaper's over-the-top reaction only confirmed it. That unassuming blonde kid. So exceptional. Testing is suspended, the Soul Reaper barked, turning to a student. I'm taking Uzumaki Naruto out of here. Keep order. The student stood tall. Yes, sir. The Soul Reaper grabbed Naruto's wrist and dragged him out of the gym. Is 5th level good? The wind whistled in his ears, and the sudden movement made Naruto's head spin. The Soul Reaper grinned. Good? That's an understatement. Your talent isn't like some unpolished gem that hasn't bloomed yet. We're here. He stopped in front of a door and knocked respectfully. A voice called from inside, come in. The Soul Reaper pushed the door open, practically bursting with excitement. Dean Hagang, a genius, has emerged from the freshman entrance exam. 5th level Ryatsu. Inside, a cheerful middle-aged man stood up. 5th level. Uzumaki Naruto, the Soul Reaper said, gently pulling Naruto into the room. 5th level Ryatsu. I saw it with my own eyes. He turned to Naruto, grinning from ear to ear. This is Dean Hagang Ikki of the Xinjiang Spiritual Arts Academy. Confused about your talent? Naruto nodded. The Soul Reaper continued, 5th level Ryatsu means that with just basic training at the academy, you could easily reach Dean Hagang's level. Naruto's eyes widened. The Dean's level? The Dean must be a pretty big deal. He thought of the one person he could compare him to, who was the principal of the Konoha Ninja School. The 3rd Hokage? Could he become someone like the 3rd? The Soul Reaper chuckled. 20 levels of Ryatsu are the bare minimum to become a Soul Reaper. At the 10th level, you're a low-ranking officer, like me. Above the 8th level, you can become a senior officer, like Dean Bagong. Before becoming Dean, Bagong was at the 6th level and was the 3rd seat of the 9th division. 5th level Ryatsu meets the requirements to be a vice-captain. The Soul Reaper paused, looking at Naruto with immense satisfaction. But that still doesn't fully capture your talent. In the last 100 years, barely any students have graduated with 8th level spiritual power. Forget about entering with 5th level. Even the current captain of the 3rd division, Fengqiao Lujuro, and the captain of the 9th division, Rokuguruma Kensei, only had 6th level spiritual power when they graduated. Naruto soaked it all in, boiling it down to a simple question, so. I'm a genius. Hokage Ikki burst into laughter. You're not just a genius, you're a once-in-a-century genius. And you're so young. No wonder you brought him here to show me off. Naruto didn't respond, just stared at the two men who were celebrating him. Deep inside, a click echoed in his ears. Something inside him broke, something called prejudice. Chapter 2, First Meeting with Kyuubi. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Naruto was a little uneasy with his new label as a genius. He also felt a bit awkward under the intense gaze of so many friendly and enthusiastic eyes. It was a complete turnaround from his days back in Konoha. This huge change left him constantly second-guessing himself. Was he really talented? What if the truth came out, and he was back to being the laughingstock of his classmates and looked down on by the teachers? But after starting school, Naruto learned a new expression, much ado about nothing. He was a genius. The Shinno Academy of Spiritual Arts had 4 core courses: swordsmanship, hand-to-hand combat, footwork, and spirit techniques. Swordsmanship, or Zan, was crucial. Death gods fought with Zanpakuto, and the sword was considered their other half. Hand-to-hand combat, or fist, was exactly what Naruto knew as physical combat. Footwork, or Zo, involved a technique called flash step that allowed for super-fast movement. Naruto excelled in all 3, especially flash step. While other students struggled, Naruto picked it up instantly. The movement felt like it was already part of him, activating with just a thought. His knack for swordsmanship and hand-to-hand combat wasn't as obvious. Some students were naturally better, but Naruto worked harder than anyone. Plus, he'd always had an insane healing ability, and that carried over to the Soul Society. Other students could only train 7 or 8 hours a day before their bodies gave out. Naruto could go for 14 or 16. He wanted to live up to the talent Dean Hago talked about, and fast. He wanted to become a captain as soon as possible. He wanted to find his parents and finally have a family. Of the 4 courses, spirit techniques, or Ghost, was where Naruto struggled. Ghost involved spirit way, channeling spiritual power through chants to create various effects, like ninjutsu back in Konoha. While his classmates were mastering basic and intermediate spells, Naruto's beginner spells were a joke, a fart had more force, this bothered him. It wasn't that he lacked the potential, he learned just as quickly as the others, he just couldn't make it work. It was the same way when he was alive, though he never understood why. It was still happening after death, but now, after learning about spiritual power, Naruto realized a strange force was interfering, he didn't know how to explain it to his teacher and feared being ridiculed again, but this wasn't a ninja academy, and these weren't ninja teachers. The Soul Society and Konoha were worlds apart. The spirit technique instructor didn't scold Naruto, he was patient and supportive. After hearing Naruto's problem, the teacher didn't think it was a lack of talent. He believed Naruto's spiritual power was so immense he couldn't fully control it yet, giving him the illusion of interference. Just a genius problem, he said. Practice controlling your spiritual energy. Reassured by his teacher and encouraged by his classmates, Naruto regained his confidence and rediscovered the drive he had when perfecting his sexy jutsu. He remembered that it wasn't that he couldn't use any ninjutsu, just that the sexy jutsu he practiced was awesome. His progress with spirit techniques may have been slow, but he was improving, school was going well, life was good too, his classmates really liked him and looked out for him, mostly because he was the youngest. Whether he was 12 when he died or only 3 in the Soul Society, he was still a kid. 2 months passed, the new students had settled in, dropouts had dropped out, and it was time for the sword bestowing ceremony. In class, the teacher announced, "The day has finally come. The day I grant you your Zanpakuto. From today until graduation, you'll be known as trainee Soul Reapers." He rapped on the table. Time to explain the graduation requirements. You can graduate in 2 ways. The first is the standard 6-year program. Even in the best class we've ever seen, that's the route most of you will take. The second is early graduation by mastering Shirkai. Geniuses like that are few and far between. It's even rarer to master Shirkai and graduate in the first year. But maybe we'll have one this year. As soon as the teacher finished, everyone's eyes turned to one person, the little blonde guy sitting in the front row. "Teacher, I." Naruto scratched his head and grinned, the teacher ruffled his hair. "I'm betting on you becoming the youngest captain ever." He grabbed a handful of swords and held them out to Naruto. "The Zanpakuto you're getting are nameless, or rather, they have a standard name for now, Asachi. Remember this. Asachi aren't gifts, they're temporarily leased by the academy. They won't be officially granted until you graduate and join the 13 court guard squads or the Onmitsukido. Listen carefully. You can't give your Asachi to anyone else during the rental period. Don't lose it. If any of that happens, or if the Asachi is damaged or broken, you must report it to the academy immediately. Otherwise, you'll face severe punishment." The teacher's face and voice were serious, the students nodded solemnly. Once everyone had received their Asachi, the teacher's expression relaxed. "Now, let's try the sword meditation technique we learned earlier. Use your spiritual power to feel the call of your own sword." Sword meditation, or blade zen, was a common practice. In meditation, soul reapers would use their spiritual power to resonate with their Zanpakuto, hoping to communicate with it. Communicating with the sword was the first step to unlocking its true power. Only by knowing its name could you use it. Naruto closed his eyes and rested the sword on his lap. As soon as his spiritual power touched the sword, he was pulled by a strong force, as if a trapdoor had opened beneath him. When he came to, he was in a dark, damp underground waterway. Naruto looked around, confused. Where was he? Another world? He quickly dismissed the idea. He sensed a familiar energy, the same force that interfered with his spirit techniques. This was probably the inner world the teacher mentioned, but, normally, mastering Shirkai only meant hearing the sword's voice. Exploring the inner world was something only soul reapers who had mastered Shirkai and learned Bankai could do. Was he that talented? And where was the sword spirit? Naruto stood up and started walking. Soon, he reached the end of the path. A massive, red, barred gate blocked his way. Beyond the gate, it was dark and ominous, like something was alive in there. Heavy breathing, open malice, a flash of red, and a flame that seemed to devour everything. "Hey, kid." The huge creature behind the gate moved. Naruto responded, "I'm here." Come closer. It called again. Naruto approached. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blew, a huge claw slashed out, slamming against the gate. The long claws went through the bars, stopping inches from Naruto's throat. You've got guts, kid. You didn't even flinch. Naruto grinned, flashing a bright smile. Why would I? You wouldn't hurt me. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. What's yours? Can you tell me? Chapter 3 Malice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The claws were tucked away, shadows deepened, and a massive, fluffy, triangular face with golden eyes loomed at the gate. It was a fox, bigger than Naruto, with a magnificent build. It grinned, revealing sharp teeth. So, what did they tell you? What kind of fantasy did they spin for you? That the tone dripped with sarcasm and ridicule. Naruto frowned, confused. He didn't appreciate the raw malice, but he remembered his teacher saying Zanpakuto spirits expressed emotions differently. Some were friendly, some fierce, but it was all a test to see if their wielder was worthy. The lesson played back in his mind. You're a manifestation of my spiritual power, he said. My most important partner for life. The nine-tailed fox chuckled. Spiritual power? Partner? That's a joke. Have the Leaf Village ninjas gotten that naive? Naruto froze. What did he just hear? Leaf Village, how could it say Leaf Village? How could this be about the Leaf Village? He blurted out. The nine-tailed fox chuckled mockingly. How could it be about the Leaf Village? I'm dead, Naruto interrupted. I'm not in the Leaf Village anymore. The nine-tailed fox narrowed its eyes, a hint of anger flashing. Dead? I didn't feel a thing. Just, poof, gone. Serious words coming from such a mouth were chilling. Naruto sat down and recounted the last 3 years, Soul Society, Soul Reapers, the Shino Academy, the 13 court guard squads, new terms that crashed into the Nine-Tails' ears. The underworld. It remembered hearing about it from the Sage of Six Paths, Otsutsuki Hagoromo, when it was first born. And Soul Reapers? It had seen them when it was inside Mito Uzumaki, the Leaf Village's first Jinchuriki. This was nothing like what Naruto described. A lie made up by the Leaf Village, that didn't fit. This kind of lie was pointless, it wouldn't fool it. Besides, with its knowledge and experience, it all sounded legit. And the kid was easy to read, he didn't seem to be lying. So, that's it, Naruto said calmly. Whether you were born in my heart back in the Leaf Village or came to be in Soul Society, we're partners now. Will you tell me your name? Kyuubi grinned, exhaling heavily. You sound convincing, but I'm still having a hard time believing you. How about this? Kid, let me feel what you're saying. Naruto was puzzled. Feel? What do you want me to do? Kyuubi considered, glancing at the seal on the gate. Think of it as a reward for entertaining me this time. Stop fighting my chakra. Let me control it and experience the world through your senses. It wanted Naruto to remove the seal and set it free, but even though what he said differed from its understanding of the underworld, it sounded true. Besides, half of it was still sealed within the fourth Hokage's soul. Regaining its full power was more important than a temporary escape. If it wasn't the Leaf Village, would you tell me your name? Naruto persisted, still stuck on the question. Clang, star, the claws slammed against the gate. The nine-tailed fox, impatient, snapped, maybe I'd consider it, kid. Its power surged, throwing Naruto back. Darkness, he felt weightless, falling again. Then, he opened his eyes, a powerful stench assaulted his nose, prying apart his nostrils and rushing in. Rot. Naruto looked around. It wasn't the bright, spacious classroom. He was on a bed in a cramped, familiar room, his old place in the Leaf Village. He stood, confused, and followed the smell. An open, half-eaten cup of instant noodles, spoiled milk, and some fish and mushrooms he'd managed to scrounge up. Memories flooded back. Instant noodles were pretty much all he ate back then. No one wanted to sell him anything, so he hoarded the cheap stuff. He had to get the fish and mushrooms himself, which wasn't easy, but, wasn't he dead? How did he get back to the Leaf Village, to this place he'd almost forgotten? What about those tough, yet happy days in Soul Society and the Shin'o Academy. This doesn't look like the Soul Society you were talking about, kid, the nine-tailed fox's irritated voice echoed in his mind. Naruto snapped back to reality. You can see it? No, the nine-tailed fox snapped. But didn't I say I could use your senses to experience the world? So. Where's the proof of this Soul Society? Naruto didn't answer. He was lost too. Was it all a dream? Such a long, vivid dream. He frowned, about to get out of bed and check things out, but a sharp pain in his waist stopped him. Something hard was poking him. Naruto looked down. It was a sheathed sword, hilt against his stomach. He was wide awake. It was Itachi. He reached out, grabbed the hilt, and drew the sword. Can you see this sword? Naruto asked, eyes burning. The nine-tailed fox was confused. Sword. There's nothing there. Then its voice trailed off. Hey, that's weird. You do have a weapon. It had seen countless ninja tools, from kunai and shuriken to the Kirigakure's 7 ninja swordsman blades or the Sage of 6 Paths fan and sword, but this sword was different. All those weapons were part of this world, but the one in Naruto's hand, if it wasn't pointed out, it wouldn't notice it. It existed almost in a state of nothingness, linked with Naruto's life force, a part of his body. This is the Itachi I told you about, Naruto said, excitement building in his voice. I don't know how we got back to the Leaf Village, but Itachi came with me. That means the Soul Society and the Shin'o Academy weren't a dream. They're real. The Nine-Tails scoffed in disbelief. Now, you gonna tell me your name? Naruto asked confidently. The Nine-Tails grinned. It's just a weapon. Doesn't prove anything. It was confused too. It was impossible that a ninja forged this weapon. In its long life, it had seen soul-related ninjutsu, like the spiritual transformation technique and the Reaper Death Seal. But even the gods summoned by the latter didn't wield anything like this. Instinct told it that Naruto wasn't lying and that Soul Society existed, but it couldn't believe it without seeing it. Naruto bit back a shout. He held Itachi, trying to figure out how they'd returned. Was it because he entered his inner world? He tried Blade Zen again and wound up back in the sewer. After being thrown out by the Nine-Tails, he stayed in his hut, unable to return to the academy. Naruto tried other things too. Nothing worked. Could he not go back? Naruto stared at the Hokage rock through the window, gripping Itachi tightly. No. There was still a chance. In the 13 court guard squads, the 13th division did purification and sent Soul Reapers to the world. The Leaf Village had to have one too. If he found a Soul Reaper, he could get back to Soul Society, but now, he needed to figure out what had changed in the Leaf Village while he was gone, and how to explain his 3-year disappearance and why he still looked like a kid, but nothing in the house had changed. It was like no one cared, which, in truth, no one did. Naruto cleaned up and tossed out the garbage. He grabbed the 1,000+ Ryo he had in the drawer and headed to the nearest convenience store. He barely reached the door when the store owner rushed out, waving a broom. Get out of here, you plague rat. I told you to stay away from my store. Naruto looked up, surprised not by the attitude. Everyone in the Leaf Village treated him like this, but he'd spent 3 years in Soul Society, and the owner hadn't aged at all. He looked at the digital clock in the store, a stark contrast to his old alarm clock. It was the day he left for Soul Society. Time had stopped when he left and hadn't started again until he returned. You brat, you hear what I said? The owner didn't care what Naruto was thinking. The fact he was standing there, looking, made him even madder. He raised the broom, ready to swing. Chapter 4 I'm not the problem. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But the stick didn't connect with Naruto's head. The instant the guy went for him, a glint of cold steel flashed, the kunai sliced through the soft wood, and the broom head clattered to the ground, kicking up dust. You son of a bitch. My broom. The shop owner's brain short-circuited with rage. He wasn't thinking about self-defense. All he saw was his property. He raised his hand, ready to swing again. Damn punk, you can't have anything nice. Before he could finish the sentence, Naruto grabbed his wrist, hooked a foot behind his leg, and sent him sprawling. He flicked the kunai out. The shop owner, looking up, kept yelling, *clang, star. The kunai grazed his nose and pinned his shirt to the ground, vibrating with a faint hum. He froze, his mind blank for a split second. A jolt of numbness shot from his tailbone, electrifying his entire body, raising goosebumps. Pain snapped him back to reality. His arm was twisted at a crazy angle, not quite broken, but stretched to the limit. The pain overrode the rage. Panic set in. He was the one being hunted. "What do you want?" "To buy stuff," Naruto said, his eyes fixed on the clock inside the store. "Don't worry, I'll pay." "You gonna be a jerk about it?" The shop owner gritted his teeth. "I don't want your business." Naruto twisted his arm a little further. The shop owner's face dripped with sweat. He stammered, "Welcome. Welcome." "Of course, you're welcome." Naruto's smile was ice. He grabbed the kunai, shoved it back in his pocket, and walked into the store. 3 years ago, he wouldn't have done this, but in the Soul Society, he'd learned that sometimes, violence is the only language people understand. Food wasn't a necessity in Hokage. Regular souls didn't get hungry, only those with spiritual power needed to eat, which meant food was crazy expensive. To survive, you had to get your hands dirty. For the first 6 months, Naruto had lived that way. Only when he got a job and a steady income did he quit borrowing and spend a year paying off the debt. He walked into the store, the numbers on the clock flipped. It wasn't broken. So, he'd been in the Soul Society for 3 years, but time in Konoha had barely moved. Or maybe it hadn't moved at all. He pondered the question as he grabbed what he needed: a piece of meat, 2 potatoes, some spices, and a bag of rice. Cost just under 600 ryo, fair price. Naruto wasn't trying to rip him off, but as soon as he left, the shop owner locked up and headed straight for the Konoha police. Total anarchy. He'd known they shouldn't have let that little punk into the ninja academy. Now he'd learned just enough to bully poor, defenseless people like him. What would he be like in the future? Hokage Tower. The third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen, was buried in paperwork. A ninja knocked and entered. "Lord Third, Uzumaki's in trouble again." Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't seem surprised. He said calmly, "What's Naruto done this time?" "He got into a fight with a shop owner and hurt him." The ninja's voice was tight with disapproval. Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression sobered. Uzumaki Naruto was a prankster, but it was always just harmless stuff, mostly at school, trying to get attention. Now he'd actually hurt someone. That was a first. A line crossed. "Where is Naruto now?" Sarutobi Hiruzen asked. "Home," the ninja replied. Sarutobi Hiruzen visibly relaxed. Home wasn't bad. "All right. I'll have a talk with him. Naruto's really gone too far this time." Uzumaki Naruto's apartment wasn't far from the Hokage Tower, a low-income building in the center of the village. Sarutobi Hiruzen got there in minutes. He raised his hand and knocked. He frowned. Something felt off. He'd always been lenient with Naruto, and the kid had always been pretty agreeable. Even when he was being bullied, he never lashed out. But today, the door opened quickly, and Naruto stood there, wearing an apron and holding a kitchen knife. When he saw Sarutobi Hiruzen, his eyes lit up. Grandpa Third, in Konoha, this was the one guy who'd always been decent to him. He had the title of Hokage, and he was the strongest, smartest guy in the whole village. He really wanted to see him. Whether it was the feelings or the questions in his head, why had he gone to the Soul Society, why was he back, why hadn't time passed in Konoha? Sarutobi Hiruzen looked past Naruto, into the apartment. He blinked. You could see the whole place in one glance: clean, tidy, ingredients on the table, potatoes, meat, rice cooking on the stove. It didn't look like Naruto's place at all. He hadn't seen him for a few days, and he'd changed a lot, but the important thing was the beating. These changes weren't important. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled and said, "Naruto, a shop owner came to me complaining that you attacked him. Is there something going on?" "That he came for this matter," Naruto corrected him. "I didn't attack him. He hit me first." Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. "Why would he attack you?" "I wanted to buy some food to cook," Naruto said. "I walked into his store, and before I could say anything, he was coming at me. I just stopped him from hitting me. I wanted to do business with him. I even paid for the stuff." Sarutobi Hiruzen felt a little better, was that all? Not some deliberate revenge attack. That was a relief, his tone softened. Even so, Naruto, you should have come to me. Hitting people isn't the answer. Do you remember what I taught you? You shouldn't strike out at anyone in the village. Naruto froze, two memories slammed into his brain. One was from the Soul Society, when he was so hungry he had to steal food. The owner chased him with a knife, cursing and spitting, but after he'd worked to pay off his debt, the owner had been satisfied, saying that Naruto hadn't been wrong, but he had to show that he couldn't be robbed. The weak get bullied. If he thought Naruto was out of line, he would have called the Shinigami. There's nothing wrong with being ugly to survive. If Naruto was willing to make amends, that was a good thing. The other memory was older, about the third Hokage. When he was getting beat up as a kid, he'd always show up to comfort him. He felt warm at that time. The third was the only one who'd ever cared about him, but thinking about it now, the guys who beat him up never got punished. They kept coming back every day. All that comfort was just teaching him to be weak and tolerant. He seemed to prefer the owner's curses. Am I supposed to come to you every time I want to buy something? Naruto interrupted. Sarutobi Hiruzen was taken aback. Naruto said clearly, when you're around, they act like they respect you. They'll let me buy stuff. But the second you're gone, they go back to hating me. I can only stock up on a bunch of stuff at a time. But I paid for everything. I didn't cheat him out of anything. He tried to hit me, and I stopped him. If he got hurt, that's his problem. What's wrong with me? Do I deserve to get beaten and cursed? Am I not allowed to defend myself? Do I deserve to live off instant ramen? Is it wrong to want real food? Am I supposed to go forage for mushrooms in the mountains? That the pent-up emotions exploded into a series of questions, hitting Sarutobi Hiruzen like a barrage of shuriken. He wasn't sure how to answer. He hadn't expected Naruto to unload on him like that. Naruto, they might have some misunderstandings, but the village is a whole. Sarutobi Hiruzen fell back on the old village card. Naruto wasn't buying it. At least, the old Naruto might have cared about the village. He interrupted Sarutobi Hiruzen again. If they're the ones with the problem, then go fix them. Why are you punishing me, the victim? Bang, the door slammed shut. Naruto didn't want to talk to Sarutobi Hiruzen right now, especially not about the questions and secrets in his head. The ninja accompanying him shouted, Uzumaki Naruto, is that how you treat the Hokage? Come out and apologize. The shouts were cut short. Sarutobi Hiruzen waved a hand. It's alright. This is my fault too. He sighed, feeling heavy and a little ashamed. He looked at the door. He could hear the sound of chopping coming from inside. He still owed the fourth a lot. Chapter 5 I am also a genius. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't knock again. He stood in the shadows, listening. The rhythmic thwack of a knife against the cutting board, the gentle bubbling of soup, and the savory scent of roasting meat drifted out. It struck him. Naruto having his own opinions was one thing, but this was another level. The place that once just housed the Jinchuriki was starting to feel like an actual home. This is good. Sarutobi told himself. It was what he'd hoped for, wasn't it? That Naruto would be okay. That the fourth Hokage would rest easy seeing this, so why did he feel this nagging unease? Maybe he just didn't understand Naruto as well as he thought. He turned and walked away. He'd observed closely for a while. Jinchuriki, don't lose your way. Uzumaki Naruto had changed a lot. His classmates at the Ninja Academy were the first to notice. The boy everyone used to hate was suddenly less annoying. The most obvious change was his clothes. Naruto used to wear a ratty, orange turtleneck tracksuit. It was sloppy and screamed country bumpkin. But he'd finally ditched it. Now, he wore a plain white hoodie that set off his blonde hair, paired with gray capri pants. He looked clean-cut and surprisingly cool. Uzumaki, that guy's actually starting to look kinda cute, Yamanaka Ino blurted out during lunch, as she sat with Haruno Sakura. Sakura followed her gaze. Uzumaki Naruto looked the same as always, at least, in her eyes. Still sitting alone, eating lunch by himself. Wait, did he make that bento? She spotted something different. Naruto had a bento box. It wasn't as fancy as the lunches her mom packed, but it looked like it might actually taste good. Ino hesitated. I don't think so. He always used to eat bread. She didn't really know. Before now, who paid attention to Uzumaki Naruto? So what if he's a little less annoying? He's still miles behind Sasuke, Sakura scoffed, folding her arms and glancing past Naruto at Uchiha Sasuke, who was sitting nearby. Loser's still a loser. This is probably just some new stunt to get attention. She did not like Naruto. Ino shrugged, unconvinced. The academy teachers were starting to notice deeper changes in Naruto, changes beneath the surface. He was actually studying. No more skipping class, no more sleeping. His homework was excellent. He'd gone from dead last to model student practically overnight. Even so, most of the teachers still didn't like him, maybe even hated him more. Word had gotten around about Naruto roughing up the convenience store owner, and he hadn't faced any consequences. The third Hokage was still playing favorites, strong-arming local businesses into serving Naruto. They pretty much agreed with Sakura, that damn kid was faking it. It wouldn't last. Besides, graduation was right around the corner. What was the point of suddenly pretending to care? But Naruto was genuinely interested in the ninja curriculum. Before, he just thought it was boring. The teacher didn't encourage him and his classmates didn't welcome him, so he didn't want to learn. But after his stint at the Mao Spiritual Academy, looking at the textbooks was a whole new experience. The concepts of chakra, basic physics, and the three body techniques all clicked. Chakra and spiritual energy were different, sure, one came from the body, the other from the soul. But the principles of using them were the same. The spiritual network, a technique for sensing spiritual energy taught at the Mao Spiritual Academy, could be adapted to chakra, allowing him to identify individuals by their chakra signature, even without seeing them. After grasping the basics, he was even able to perform ghost techniques after some practice. Of course, the village ideology parts of the textbook were still dry and uninformative. During the last class of the week, Irika rapped his knuckles on the podium. Graduation exams are in 1 week. You'll all be real ninjas soon. So today, we're having a practical class. Everyone, meet on the training grounds. A collective groan rippled through the class. They preferred theoretical classes to training. The lectures were boring, sure, but at least the teacher didn't yell at you if you slacked off. And practical classes, they called it practical training, but it always ended with a run, *3 kilometers. No thanks, star, but the students got up, dutifully heading to the training grounds through the door or hopping out the window. They lined up and sat around the edge of the field. Anyone want to volunteer? Irika called, raising his hand. Naruto shot up immediately. Irika-sensei, I want to spar with Uchiha Sasuke. His voice was firm. The teachers and classmates hadn't changed their opinion of him yet. He knew he needed a chance to show them who he was now, and this was it. Irika hesitated. Naruto might be improving, but he was still outmatched by Uchiha Sasuke. But before he could say no, he remembered the third Hokage's instructions from a few days ago. He quickly changed his mind. All right. If Naruto insists, Uchiha Sasuke, step up and spar with Naruto. The students gasped. Irika-sensei never let Naruto get away with this kind of thing. Sasuke rose, his expression cold, and walked with Naruto to the center of the field. First round of practical training. Uzumaki Naruto vs Uchiha Sasuke. Begin. Irika grabbed his notebook and stepped back, officially starting the match. The battle didn't begin right away. Sasuke stood with his hands in his pockets, glaring at Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto, you'll never beat me. We're carrying different burdens. Someone as carefree as you can't even compare. Irika-sensei should find me a more worthy opponent. The girls shrieked with delight. Naruto didn't say a word. He gathered chakra in his feet and unleashed it, launching himself forward like a rocket just as Sasuke finished speaking. Golden flash. The cheers almost seemed to be celebrating the moment. Sasuke's eyes widened. So fast. He barely managed to raise his arm, forming a crossblock in front of him. But Naruto's hand had already grabbed his face and slammed him down. Burden. Do we really need to talk about that? The ground rumbled as Sasuke hit, kicking up a cloud of dust that mixed with Naruto's calm voice. he raised a fist and reached behind him, hooking two kunai with his index and middle fingers, fist aimed at the smoke, crack, starred at a chunk of wood went flying. It was a substitution jutsu. A faint rustling came from inside the cloud. Naruto wasn't surprised. To him, chakra signatures were like ribbons fluttering in the air, and only he could see them. There were two signatures representing Uchiha Sasuke, a faint one circling behind him, and a bright one charging to the left. He flicked his wrist, kunai flew in both directions. "You've made some progress, but you're still miles away from my level." Sasuke's voice came from the left. Naruto ignored him, didn't even glance that way. It was a clone. The real Sasuke was. He reached out, grabbed the stronger chakra signature, and spun around, right where he expected. Behind him, Uchiha Sasuke, looking flustered after barely dodging the first attack, was raising a kunai to strike. Clang, too late. Naruto's kunai connected with Sasuke's in midair, sending them both clattering to the ground. The clone on the left dissolved into a puff of smoke, shot down by the second kunai. Sasuke's eyes went wide. How did he know? After getting hit the first time, he'd used the clone technique at the same instant he performed the substitution, and he'd used the clone to distract Naruto, and Naruto hadn't even looked at it. Was he so sure he was behind him? As the thoughts raced through his mind, another golden flash, Naruto closed the distance, slashing with one hand and reaching behind him with the other. Sasuke was ready this time. He didn't have his hands in his pockets, and he barely kept up with the speed, raising his arms to block, but then, the attack came from below, a kick hooking his calf and throwing him off balance. Naruto easily flipped Sasuke over. Sasuke slammed to the ground. He tried to move, but his neck stung. A worn, not-so-sharp kunai pressed against his Adam's apple. "You lost, Uchiha Sasuke," Naruto said softly, declaring his victory. Uchiha Sasuke didn't want to admit it, but he couldn't argue. He stared at Naruto, shocked and confused. He couldn't understand how, in just a few days, the dead last student had changed so much. Iruka and the other students were just as stunned. Uchiha Sasuke had actually lost. Naruto straightened up and looked at Sasuke calmly. "You carry a heavy burden. But that's no excuse to look down on your opponent. You're not strong yet. You don't deserve to look down on anyone." Sasuke gritted his teeth, clenching his fists. He lowered his head. He couldn't even beat the dead last kid. Naruto paused, then raised his voice, speaking not just to Sasuke, but to Iruka and the entire class. "The results speak for themselves. I'm not the dead last anymore. I'm a genius, too." Chapter 6 I am the son of the fourth generation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Iruka, stumbling over his words, announced, "Uzumaki Naruto wins." That it was over too fast. The outcome was a shock. To call it an even match would be a joke. Sasuke Uchiha got completely wiped. Did Sasuke even land a single hit? Only when he used the substitute technique and clone technique to get behind Naruto did he launch a surprise attack with a kunai, and Naruto predicted it, taking him down. When did Naruto get so strong? Could a few days of studying really make that much of a difference? On the roof of the Ninja Academy, Hiruzen Sarutobi stood with a ninja whose face was mostly covered, revealing only one eye and silver hair. "Kakashi, what do you think?" the Hokage asked. Hatake Kakashi replied softly, "Their physical abilities are about the same. Sasuke might be slightly stronger. But Naruto's got more practical combat experience. He also uses chakra to boost his speed, almost like a teleportation technique. And his instincts are sharp. He must have awakened a perception talent, like other members of the Uzumaki clan. That's why Naruto won so easily. If Sasuke hadn't been confused by the clones, or if he'd unlocked his Sharingan, the result might have been different." Sarutobi Hiruzen chuckled. "It reminded me of the fourth Hokage." "What about you?" Hatake Kakashi didn't say anything. "One is the last of the Uchiha clan, and the other is your teacher's son," Sarutobi Hiruzen continued. "I'm going to make you their team leader. If anyone in Konoha can teach them, it's you." Hatake Kakashi agreed. "Understood. One more thing." Sarutobi Hiruzen stared at Naruto, who had returned to his seat in the corner of the crowd. Naruto wasn't like this before. His personality suddenly changed. and he showed talent he never had before. The investigation turned up nothing. He hasn't been in contact with anyone suspicious, and the nine-tailed fox's seal hasn't been broken. Find out why. The Jinchuriki can't afford to lose anything. Hatake Kakashi agreed again. Sarutobi Hiruzen opened his mouth, hesitated, but didn't say, "Be good to him." He didn't think he needed to. Naruto Uzumaki was the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze's son. They were practically brothers. Of course Kakashi would look out for him. Sarutobi Hiruzen left. Being Hokage was a tough job. Hatake Kakashi remained on the roof, his eyes occasionally glancing at Naruto, but mostly focused on the sulking and resentful Sasuke Uchiha. Life hadn't gotten any better for the genius Uzumaki Naruto. He'd thought that showing off his talent would change things, but nothing had. His classmates still didn't want to be his friends, the teachers still hated him, some girls were even worse. "How dare you beat our handsome Sasuke-sama?" Naruto wasn't disappointed. Ever since the third Hokage came to check up on him, he'd lowered his expectations. He was just confused. His time in Soul Society and Jinyang Spiritual Arts Academy had taught him one thing: there's always a reason for hate. Most people are neutral toward strangers, same with love. He'd become excellent and given them reasons to love him, but they still acted the same. That meant their reasons for hating him outweighed any love. It wasn't just because he was an orphan, or because he'd been a troublemaker in the past. What could it be? He stared at the Hokage rock in the distance. 4 huge heads. Naruto had memorized everything about those 4 Hokage. The first Hokage had brought peace to the ninja world, the second had founded the Ninja Academy, and the third was still alive and kicking. The fourth had died saving the village from the demon fox. Wait, demon fox. His inner power was also a fox. It didn't know Soul Society or Shiraidai, but it knew Konoha. Naruto hadn't connected the dots before, but now he had to. He entered his inner world. "Kid, stop bothering me." The Nine-Tails snarled when he saw him. Naruto looked up at those golden eyes. "I heard a story when I was little, about the fourth Hokage saving the village from the demon fox." "Are you that demon fox?" The Nine-Tails grinned, unashamed. "Yep, it's me. You finally figured it out. I'm not the other half in your little game of friendship. I can't wait to eat you, kid." Naruto stepped closer. He didn't have any strong feelings about the fox inside him being a demon, even if it was why the village hated him. Did he hate it? Maybe a little, but Naruto didn't care what the village thought of him. He had other places to be. Soul Society was better than Konoha. He just looked up and ahead. The red gate and the cursed seal screamed, "Keep out." "So, the reason you hate me is because the fourth Hokage sealed you inside me?" he whispered, grabbing at the root of the Nine-Tails' hatred. The Nine-Tails grumbled. "That blonde-haired guy," Naruto asked again, "why me? Did the fourth Hokage just pick a kid at random, and chose an orphan like me? A guy who could threaten the whole village shouldn't be stuck in a kid like him." In Soul Society, the older kids always protected the younger ones when fighting for food. The Nine-Tails' expression twisted. It leaned closer, staring at Naruto. "Didn't the people in Konoha tell you about this?" Naruto shook his head, confused. "The demon fox thing is just my guess." If he hadn't gone to Soul Society, he wouldn't even know there was a fox inside him. "Fine, I'll tell you, brat." The Nine-Tails extended a claw and pointed it at Naruto's forehead, laughing fiercely. "Of course the fourth Hokage had to seal me inside you. He had no choice. After all, you're the fourth Hokage's son. Before he died, you were the only one who could be the vessel of Jinchuriki." Naruto froze, his face contorted in disbelief. His eyes were blank, staring fiercely at the Nine-Tails. His father, the one he'd never met, the one whose name wasn't even known, was the fourth Hokage? That's impossible. Naruto couldn't believe it. He'd been through too much to believe it. If he was the fourth Hokage's son, he'd be the son of a hero. Would the son of a hero be hated by the whole village? Would the son of a hero have no friends? I'm not lying. The Nine-Tails grinned, excited, as if he'd found an amazing toy. Konoha's been lying to you, keeping the truth from you. They just want to use you as a weapon. What good is a village like that? Come on. Break the seal. Don't you want to borrow my power? Just undo it. Let's destroy this village together. Naruto took a deep breath. Even though he didn't need to in his mind, he wanted to find Grandpa Third and ask him if this was true, but another memory surfaced. He was very young. He'd asked Grandpa Third for pictures of his parents, but was told there weren't any. He'd asked for their names, but had been brushed off. Then, a few days ago, the third Hokage wasn't trustworthy. He'd been the one to keep his parents' identities a secret. The Nine-Tails was still making noise. Shut up. Naruto glared. I won't listen to you. That the Nine-Tails narrowed his eyes. I like that look on your face. But even now, you still want to protect Konoha. Naruto clenched his fists. Konoha. I'm not protecting it. Since you were sealed inside me by my father. I'll find him and ask him myself. I'm not listening to you. You're the one who killed my father. Chapter 7 Shuimu, do you want to know the truth? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kyuubi scoffed, jerking his head back. He wasn't about to explain what happened that day, and he sure as hell wasn't going to mention those Mangekyo Sharingan eyes. Even sealed inside someone else, he was still the most powerful of the tailed beasts and had some pride, being controlled. Too embarrassing to even talk about. Naruto took off, leaving that inner space behind. Lying on his bed, his mind was a total mess. He just wanted to get back to Soul Society ASAP. The teachers and upperclassmen at Jinyang Spiritual Arts Academy would definitely be able to help him figure this out. At least they'd be willing to hear him out. Since he'd been back in Konoha, he'd been searching, but he hadn't run into a single death god. And those hollow monsters with the white masks they talked about in textbooks. Never seen one, of course. That was normal. There was only one death god per district, so the odds of just bumping into one weren't great. What really threw him for a loop was how to deal with the fox, a father-killing enemy living inside him. All these messed up feelings just made him hate Konoha even more. The villagers' reasons for hating him made no sense, and were totally the opposite of what he knew to be true. There wasn't a single person here he could confide in. This wasn't home at all. While Naruto was out hunting for his death god buddies, graduation exams were right around the corner. The test was easy. Just pull off the clone jutsu and make the clone look at least halfway decent. No sweat for Naruto now, but, compared to 3 years ago, when he was itching to graduate and become a ninja, Naruto wasn't exactly thrilled about graduation. He was sitting on the swing outside the academy, looking at the happy crowds with cold eyes. Students who passed got praised by their parents, the failures cried in their parents' arms. Like him, there were plenty of orphans without parents, but unlike him, they weren't alone. They had friends and teachers around. Even Sasuke Uchiha had a bunch of girls buzzing around him. Suddenly, he heard a rustling sound behind him. Someone with chakra was getting close. Right, Mizuki, in the ninja academy, he was one of the few, besides Irika, who didn't treat him like garbage. Naruto turned around. Mizuki stopped 10 feet away, smiling gently. Naruto, you're sharp as a tack. What's up, Mizuki-sensei? Naruto asked, figuring he was here for a reason. They weren't exactly close enough for Mizuki to come congratulate him in private. Mizuki ignored the question, walking closer and looking at the crowd at the school gates. They look so happy, he sighed. Having their parents around. Having friends by their side. But you're all alone, Naruto. Naruto didn't say anything, just gripped the swing's ropes tighter. You're a pretty sad case, Mizuki said, crouching down next to him. Everyone hates you. Naruto said casually, does Mizuki-sensei hate me too? Mizuki shook his head quickly. Of course not. I feel sorry for you. You want to know why everyone in the village hates you? Naruto's eyes narrowed. Why? Of course he wanted to know. It's a secret, Mizuki whispered, his voice low and mysterious. It's written in the scroll of seals. That scroll is locked up in the Hokage tower. If you want to know the truth, you'll have to steal it. Naruto rolled his eyes. Mizuki's eyes flickered. Naruto wasn't the naive kid who showed up in Soul Society 3 years ago. He could tell that Mizuki was trying to get him to steal that scroll. He wanted to use him to get something done. Bad news. So, you know the secret, Mizuki-sensei? Naruto asked, acting like he hadn't figured it out yet. He wanted to understand how others saw him, and what was causing this hate. Mizuki looked surprised. If you didn't know the secret, how would you know it was in the scroll of seals? Naruto pressed. Mizuki shook his head. This wasn't going according to plan. He thought this idiot would be easy to manipulate, that he'd jump at the bait, guess he had some brains after all, but he still had this under control, he was sure of it. You're a good kid, Naruto, Mizuki said with a sigh, putting on a sympathetic act. I just don't want to believe the rumors. He paused, as if he was having an internal struggle. Finally, he said seriously, 12 years ago, the fourth Hokage sealed the nine-tailed fox. You heard about that, right? Naruto nodded. Well, there's been an unspoken rule in the village ever since. They just don't tell you. The rule is, never mention that you're the nine-tailed fox. I've been teaching you for years, and I see that you're a good kid. I don't want to believe it. I'm afraid only the scroll written by the Hokage himself can prove whether that's true or not. Naruto looked at Mizuki, acting surprised, but he understood. Everything made sense now. No wonder everyone in the village hated him. They didn't know he was the fourth Hokage's son, they thought he was the demon fox itself, but, why did the villagers know this? Was someone deliberately hiding his true identity? Mizuki put his hand gently on Naruto's head, his voice soft but firm. Go find out the truth for yourself. Security at the Hokage Tower is laxest at night. Naruto cut him off. Mizuki-sensei. Mizuki stopped, looking confused. What is it, Naruto? Let's go talk to the third Hokage, Grandpa Third, together, Naruto said, looking determined. He wanted to know if Mizuki was telling the truth. Was this all a lie to trick him into stealing the scroll of seals? Or was Mizuki twisting the truth? Mizuki looked like he'd been stabbed. That rule, that's the third Hokage's order. You won't get a straight answer from him. Everything's in the scroll of seals. You can only find the truth by getting it. See the third Hokage? No way. Telling Naruto some of the facts was one thing, but now that Naruto knew that his goal was the scroll of seals, he was exposed. Naruto grabbed Mizuki's wrist, holding on tight. Mizuki-sensei, let's go. He wasn't interested in the scroll of seals, he already knew the truth anyway. He was the fourth Hokage's son, and there was definitely a fox living inside him. He just wanted to know what the third Hokage would say. Mizuki's face twisted, he cursed under his breath. What was going on? This kid didn't care about the scroll of seals, which supposedly had all the facts. He trusted the third Hokage that much? Naruto, you don't trust me. Mizuki tried to shake him off, but Naruto's grip was too strong. Let go, Naruto. Mizuki snapped, his friendly act falling apart as he scowled. Naruto stood up, pulling him toward the Hokage Tower. Mizuki-sensei, please come with me to see Grandpa Third. I need to know. Mizuki gritted his teeth and kicked out. He'd had enough. Even if they were right outside the ninja academy, beating students wasn't something a teacher should do, sure, but if the target was Uzumaki Naruto, no one would stop him. Naruto saw the kick coming, he raised his other hand, grabbed Mizuki's foot, and was about to slam him down. Bang! A cloud of white smoke, a kunai flew through the air, and Naruto instinctively let go. Then, a punch headed his way, the figure disappeared in the smoke, leaving only a wooden log in its place, a substitution jutsu. Where'd he go? The chakra signature moved to the trees. Naruto looked up. Mizuki was standing on a branch, holding onto the trunk, his face twisted in disgust as he looked at Naruto like he was trash. You monster! Since you're being so difficult, don't blame me for teaching you a lesson. He cursed. Shurikens and kunai rained down. Naruto raised his hand and started chanting. Heido number 1, Sho. It was the only spell he knew. It didn't have much punch, but the burst of air it created instantly threw off the trajectory of the metal weapons, which whistled past him and clattered to the ground. Mizuki looked shocked. What kind of jutsu was that? Wind-style ninjutsu without hand seals. He'd never heard of it, and just then, Naruto crouched, leaped into the air, and went straight for Mizuki. Chapter 8. How should I write it? No, how should I answer it? You are listening at novelfull.audio. The leaves whispered like rain, their fight was a total brawl, drawing a crowd. What's going on over there? Is that monster fighting a teacher? He was bullying some regular folks not too long ago. Guess he finally pushed a teacher too far. It's a shame someone like that even gets to be a ninja. What's the Hokage thinking? That's Mizuki. Plenty of other teachers were watching, but none of them felt like stepping in. A kid fresh out of the academy was no match for a seasoned chunin. Besides, they figured it was just dogs eating dogs, Naruto. No explanation needed there for Mizuki, though. Around students and parents, he played the perfect gentleman, all soft words and smiles, but any teacher knew Mizuki's record was far from clean. Rumors of him killing teammates during a mission, an investigation that dragged on forever, a viper in sheep's clothing. Honestly, they were half hoping Mizuki would accidentally off Naruto, solve two problems at once. The fight raged on. Naruto and Mizuki darted through the trees, chasing each other. Gotta admit, you've been doing pretty well lately, Mizuki sneered, but kids shouldn't talk back to adults. Learn your lesson. He threw a punch, not holding back. Naruto dodged. The difference in physical strength between a grown man and a 12-year-old was huge, making it tough for Naruto to keep up. Still, he stuck to close combat. Ninjutsu and ninja tools weren't his strong suit. He needed to get in close to find an opening. Mizuki reached behind him, ready to pull out a kunai and teach the annoying kid who messed with his plans a bloody lesson. Naruto's eyes lit up. A chance. He saw it. He reached out and started chanting. Mizuki frowned. Was that the weird technique that didn't need hand seals again? Thinking back, that blast of air was impressive, but he could still adjust the kunai's trajectory. Just kid stuff, really. He could handle it. It wouldn't do any real damage. He decided to ignore it and keep going, but Naruto wasn't using the Heido, the one that attacked and destroyed. Instead, he used Fudo, the one that trapped and restrained. Fudo number 1, bind. Chakra mixed with the power of his soul surged forward, slamming into Mizuki without a sound. Suddenly, Mizuki's arms twisted behind him, wrists clamping together tight against his back. Mizuki was shocked. What kind of technique was this? Could he control his body? His arms were stuck. He couldn't use ninjutsu. He struggled to break free, but his hands were stuck together, and the position made it impossible to use his full strength. He couldn't get loose. Naruto kicked him. Mizuki stumbled and crashed under the tree. The crowd was speechless. What did they just see? Teacher Mizuki was defeated. He wasn't a professional fighter, but he was still a chunin, and he just got beat by a newly graduated genin, and the dead last one at that, just a week ago. Unbelievable. Sasuke Uchiha clenched his fists, eyes wide. He thought he and Naruto were close in skill, but was Naruto really strong enough to take down a chunin? Mizuki was still fighting to get free. He realized brute force wasn't going to work. It might be a mental trick, so he needed to use chakra to attack, but he didn't have time to try. Naruto landed lightly, standing in front of Mizuki, kunai in hand. Teacher Mizuki, you really shouldn't have turned down my invitation. He stopped mid-sentence. He looked up suddenly. A huge amount of chakra was gathering above them, up in the tree where they'd been fighting, way stronger than Mizuki's or Iruka's. A jonin, whoosh, star. Naruto jumped back and looked up. It was a ninja wearing a frog mask. Uzumaki. Naruto, stop right now. The ninja's voice was clearly disguised. He didn't seem hostile. Even if Naruto hadn't dodged, the kunai would have landed harmlessly between them. Naruto frowned. A strange jonin wearing a mask. Was this one of the ninja Konoha used to keep tabs on the demon fox? That before the jonin could say anything else, Naruto pointed at Mizuki and said, I want to see the third Hokage. Mizuki said I was a demon fox and used that as an excuse to get me to steal the scroll of seals. Demon fox. The scroll of seals. The Umbu's eyes widened behind the mask. This guy did that. Should have known not to stop him. He leaped down from the tree, grabbed Mizuki, and tied him up with rope. Alright, let's go see the Hokage. They'd barely left when Iruka pushed through the crowd, running frantically, followed by a girl with short hair, pure white eyes, and a timid presence. Where's Naruto? He looked around, his voice anxious. He'd been busy with the graduation stuff at the school. Then Hinata Hyuga ran up and said Naruto and Mizuki were fighting, but where was Naruto? Neither Naruto nor Mizuki were anywhere to be seen. Hinata was the Hyuga clan's eldest daughter. She was usually quiet and sweet, not the type to lie. The Umbu took her, another teacher explained. Irika was well liked. Irika's voice cracked. Umbu? That the teacher nodded. Uzumaki Naruto hurt Mizuki, and then the Umbu showed up. They said something and took Naruto and Mizuki away. Sounds like they're heading to see the Hokage. Irika's head snapped back. The Hokage? Had it really gotten that serious? His face fell. He thought about some of the rumors about the Umbu, all those horrible torture methods, fingers severing, grilling, cutting board drag. He gritted his teeth. He had to get to the Hokage building. Naruto was just a kid. He'd been doing so well recently, at school and in life. It shouldn't be like this. Hokage building. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked grim, staring at Mizuki, who was tied up tight by the Umbu, puffing on his pipe. He knew he couldn't hide it from Naruto forever, but to have Naruto find out at a time when he was changing so much. It was like lighting a fuse. Luckily, Naruto brought the guy in. Compared to that, the fact that this guy was after the scroll of seals was nothing. Chin, Sarutobi Hiruzen glanced at Naruto, caught his eye, and waved his hand. The frog-masked Umbu stood up. Take him away. The Umbu will interrogate him and find out everything. The frog-masked Umbu grabbed Mizuki and vanished. Naruto, you did a good job. Sarutobi Hiruzen forced a smile. Naruto stared blankly. He said I was a demon fox, that the village hates me. Is that true? Sarutobi Hiruzen made his voice as gentle as possible. I said they might have some prejudices. So it's true, I'm a demon fox. Naruto interrupted, not missing a beat. Sarutobi Hiruzen was stunned. He didn't want to lie, or maybe he didn't dare to. The consequences of lying and getting caught were far worse than keeping the truth hidden. If he lied and Naruto found out later, what would an out-of-control Jinchuriki do? He didn't want to think about it. Besides, this was Minato Namake's kid. No, you're not the Nine Tails, Sarutobi Hiruzen said, carefully choosing the truth he could tell. It's just, you're connected to the Nine Tails. It's sealed inside you. Most people don't understand these things. They have their prejudices, so they mistakenly think you're the Nine Tails. The truth is, you're a hero with a heavy burden. Naruto said, the Nine Tails is the name of the demon fox. Sarutobi Hiruzen was about to nod. But why did the fourth Hokage seal the Nine Tails inside me? Naruto asked, not giving him a chance. The Nine Tails attacked 12 years ago, and I was just a baby then. Why didn't they just kill the Nine Tails? Or seal it in someone else's body? Sarutobi Hiruzen had a headache. He missed the brainless Naruto from before. Sure, there were more pranks, but at least he didn't ask questions like this. It has something to do with your body, Sarutobi Hiruzen said, carefully choosing his words. Your last name is Uzumaki. You have the Uzumaki clan's strong constitution. No one else could be the container for the Nine Tails. Only you can handle this special, difficult, and glorious responsibility. My parents were from the Uzumaki clan? Naruto asked. Both of them, Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded. Your mother was from the Uzumaki clan. She. Then shouldn't I have the same last name as my father? Naruto interrupted again. Why do I have the same last name as my mother? What about my father? Sarutobi Hiruzen took a deep breath and reached out to touch Naruto's head. How was he supposed to answer? Tell the truth, tell Naruto that his last name should really be Namake's. That wasn't the right answer. Chapter 9 I am the Hokage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Naruto stared at Hiruzen Sarutobi, sensing the old man's inner turmoil. A coldness crept into Naruto's gaze. Any lingering doubts about Kurama's words vanished. The idea that I'm the fourth Hokage's kid felt more real than ever. I'm sorry, Naruto, I can't tell you anything yet, Hiruzen sighed, puffing on his pipe. A cloud of smoke filled the air as he continued, this is for your protection. Your identity is unique and must remain a secret, even from yourself. You have potential. Grow stronger, faster. When you're strong enough to be a towering tree protecting the village, you'll learn about your parents. They were Konoha heroes, great heroes, just like you'll be. Naruto remained unmoved. There was a time when those words would have ignited his passion, filled him with excitement, but now, he heard the hesitation, the evasion between the lines. Everyone in the village knows I'm the nine-tailed fox, Naruto said, his face blank, his voice steady. And they don't treat me like a hero. Hiruzen reached out and patted Naruto's head. How could he explain it? That Konoha wasn't united? That some people, like himself, wanted Naruto to be a normal kid, a normal ninja. And others only wanted to see him as a Jinchuriki, a vessel. He didn't want an immature, inexperienced ninja to develop a biased, negative view of the village. Suddenly, the Hokage's office door burst open. Iruka rushed in, out of breath. He immediately sensed the heavy, somber atmosphere. Hokage-sama. Forgive me. Without hesitation, Iruka dropped to one knee, gritting his teeth, his voice trembling but firm. Even though the graduation test was today, official team assignments aren't until tomorrow. Naruto is still my student. I beg you, Hokage-sama, leave Naruto in my care. As Naruto's teacher, any trouble he causes is due to my inadequate instruction. I should shoulder some of the blame. Iruka paused, his expression puzzled. The third Hokage smiled gently. The heavy atmosphere seemed to dissipate. What was going on? Why was he smiling? Naruto stared at Iruka in disbelief. His usually strict teacher seemed to have completely misunderstood the situation, but it was the misunderstanding itself that floored Naruto, pleading for him. Defending him. Even willing to take responsibility. Was there really someone in Konoha who cared that much? Iruka, Naruto didn't cause any trouble this time, the third Hokage chuckled, taking his pipe from his mouth. He did something extraordinary, something commendable. Mizuki isn't a good guy. Didn't investigations reveal he'd harmed colleagues in the past? Iruka nodded, yes, sir. Hiruzen continued, this time, Mizuki manipulated Naruto. He tried to trick Naruto into stealing the scroll of seals. But Naruto's a good kid. He resisted the temptation and captured Mizuki instead. Iruka was shocked. Naruto knew the truth. He hadn't been swayed, had seen through Mizuki's scheme. It didn't sound like Naruto. Naruto, you're amazing, Iruka said sincerely. You've really grown during this time. He was genuinely happy for his student's progress. Hiruzen nodded in satisfaction. He liked Iruka, a young man who was pure, sincere, and loyal to the village. It was a shame he wasn't more talented. He'd probably reached his peak as a chunin, if only Konoha had more young people like him. Naruto, see? He smiled gently. There are people like Iruka in the village who genuinely care about you. Don't let the darkness you see cloud your heart. Hiruzen walked to a cabinet and rummaged through it. Where is it? Ah, found it. He pulled out a giant scroll, almost half Naruto's size. This is the scroll of seals Mizuki was talking about. He told you there was a secret about your past hidden inside. That was a lie. Hiruzen unfurled the scroll. With a clatter, it fell to the floor, revealing rows of intricate, dizzying characters. This scroll of seals contains a collection of dangerous, forbidden ninjutsu that have appeared in Konoha over the years. They're incredibly powerful, but can easily harm the user. Only in the right hands can their true power be unleashed. Naruto, I've thought of a jutsu that would suit you. Consider it your reward for this time. Hiruzen pointed to the scroll, revealing the ninjutsu listed first. Shadow Clone Jutsu, Naruto read aloud, studying the characters. Hiruzen nodded and smiled. This is an A-rank ninjutsu that requires incredibly high chakra levels. It's too dangerous for ordinary people, but perfect for you, with your Uzumaki blood. The village will never forget those who contribute to it. He waited for Naruto to read the text and make sure he understood it, then, Hiruzen rolled up the scroll. Study hard. If you have any questions, come and ask. He paused, his tone kind, his expression warm. Naruto, I've always thought of you as my grandson. Now, go get ready. Starting tomorrow, you'll be a real ninja. Naruto wanted to continue their earlier conversation, but Hiruzen, claiming to have work to do, dismissed him. Iruka pulled Naruto out of the office. As soon as they left, a voice emerged from the shadows. Hiruzen, are you truly losing it? Are you still refusing to hand the Jinchuriki over to me? Hiruzen narrowed his eyes, locating the source of the voice, a man with bandages covering half his head. Danzo, I already regret not stopping you from spreading the news about Naruto being the nine-tailed fox in the village, Hiruzen said softly. Give it up. I will never hand Naruto over to you. Danzo said coldly, the Jinchuriki is becoming unstable. He's hurt people twice now. And the reason for his change hasn't been determined yet. The seal might be weakening. You should leave him to me. Hiruzen's eyes flashed, and he interrupted, Danzo. Naruto's change is a good thing. The reason he hurt people twice is clear. It's because of you. That news you spread made them reject Naruto. Mizuki used that information to manipulate Naruto. I'm glad Naruto wasn't affected by your petty schemes. Naruto will become a great ninja, like his father, and I won't let you destroy him. Danzo scoffed. Hiruzen, do you really believe the Jinchuriki resisted Mizuki's manipulation? Hiruzen remained silent. Danzo moved closer, standing beside him. You and I are both here for Konoha. You've been Hokage for too long. You've become naive. Ever since that day, the Jinchuriki's thoughts have been growing darker. He didn't show much emotion after learning he was a Jinchuriki. Maybe he already knew, or has been in contact with Kurama. He paused, emphasizing each word. If the seal fails, and Kurama escapes. Or the Jinchuriki loses control. I will train him properly. You know I've always been good at that. Hiruzen clenched his pipe. No, Danzo. I trust Naruto. He's a good kid. If he really loses control, I'll fight with all my strength, and if need be, I will reseal the Nine Tails, just like Minato. I'm the Hokage. I have a responsibility to ensure everyone in the village lives a good life. That includes Naruto. He's not just a Jinchuriki. He's the son of the fourth Hokage and a member of the Uzumaki clan. Danzo narrowed his eyes, staring at Hiruzen, at the third Hokage, who was the same age but much older than him. Hiruzen, you'll regret this. Will I? Hiruzen exhaled a cloud of smoke, completely obscuring his face. I hope I don't live to see that day. Danzo fell silent, retreating with a grim expression. They had conflicting ideologies and were always bickering, yet, every time, Hiruzen always rejected his proposals that would have been most beneficial for the village. After all, the shadow held the greatest power in the village. Chapter 10 Teacher, I think I have finally figured it out. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Walking out of the Hokage building, Naruto glanced at Iruka, the ninja in the green vest beside him, a complicated feeling washing over him. Thanks, Iruka-sensei. Don't mention it. Iruka gave him a thumbs up. You were amazing, Naruto. Why did sensei do that? Naruto wondered. He probably thought I was a screw-up. And sensei, you know the rumors about me being the demon fox, too. Iruka's eyes turned wistful. Demon fox. You know, we're actually a lot alike. I was an orphan too. When I was at the Ninja Academy, I was always pulling crazy stunts to get attention. But back then, I was in so much pain, I'd cry myself to sleep every night in that empty room. He lowered his gaze to meet Naruto's. But Naruto, your pain must be even worse than mine. I was just ignored, but you've had to endure so much hatred. I messed up before. Even though I've been through it myself, I didn't consider how you felt. Naruto turned his head, trying to hide the tears welling up in his eyes. Iruka reached out and ruffled Naruto's hair, his voice filled with emotion. You're way stronger than I was. It wasn't until I graduated and got guidance from my superiors and the Hokage, and after I went through some stuff, that I figured out how to be a good ninja. You're already there, Naruto. As your teacher, it's pretty embarrassing to be outdone by you. Naruto grinned, letting out a chuckle. That's the smile I've been waiting for, Iruka said, patting his head gently. You haven't smiled like that lately. Let's keep it that way from now on. He turned serious. Everyone says it, but I don't buy into that rumor. As far as I'm concerned, you're not a demon fox. You're Naruto, Uzumaki Naruto. The outstanding student I recognize, who's definitely going to become a great ninja. Just like. Iruka paused, turning to gaze at the mountain in the distance, the Hokage faces carved into the rock. He continued, his voice solemn, like he was laying out an inevitable future, or making an unbreakable promise. Just like the fourth Hokage, a truly great ninja. Naruto followed Iruka's gaze, my great father is up there on that mountain, he suddenly didn't like the words great and excellent. After wolfing down the Ichiraku ramen Iruka-sensei treated him to, Naruto headed home. He wasn't feeling up to practicing the multiple shadow clone technique just yet. The events of the day replayed in his mind. His opinion of Sarutobi Hiruzen hadn't changed. Sure, the third Hokage probably wasn't as bad as he'd thought, and not all his kindness was an act. Some of his care was genuine. But he was still hiding things, important things. Iruka-sensei's actions, though, were a surprise. So, there are people in Konoha who genuinely care about me. The village didn't seem quite so awful anymore. But I still want to go back to Soul Society. There was only one Iruka in Konoha, but the Shino Academy had plenty. He still hadn't bumped into any of the other Soul Reapers he missed so much. Tomorrow was a day off from classes. Maybe once I'm officially a ninja, I'll be able to travel around more and have a better chance of finding them. He couldn't explain it, but he felt vaguely uneasy about the connection between Konoha and Soul Society. That feeling of unease made Naruto grab the sword hanging on the wall. He hadn't been taking it to school. No weapons besides kunai and shuriken were allowed. He usually just did a little kendo training first thing in the morning. If you're feeling uneasy, then work it out with training. That was Naruto's usual way of dealing with his emotions, but the moment his hand touched the sword, it changed. The length was the same, and the style of the blade hadn't changed either. But the whole thing had turned a deep, ominous dark red. A fluffy, slender red ribbon hung from the end of the hilt. An inexplicable knowledge flooded his mind. It was a spell. The sudden transformation stunned Naruto. Kyuubi's name. He knew Kyuubi's name. Know its name, and master its power. So, you don't have to learn your Zanpakuto's name yourself. You can unlock and use its power just by hearing someone else say it. He gripped the hilt of the sword. It felt completely different than when he held the Asachi before. Heartbeat, life, flesh throbbing. This sword was an extension of his own chakra and soul. There was no doubt about it. This was his Zanpakuto's Shirkai, but Kyuubi is a monster sealed inside me. How could it become my initial release and become my inner strength? Naruto sat down cross-legged. He rested the sword across his knees. By practicing Blade Zen, he could enter the dark, underground waterway inside his own heart. Kid, long time no see. Kyuubi narrowed its eyes, studying the blonde boy with unusual seriousness. Its tone was almost cheerful. You don't look so good. Since the day it had told him, you're the fourth son, Naruto hadn't been back here. It had been looking forward to seeing how that news would mess with the kid's head. Your name is Kyuubi? Naruto asked, cutting right to the point. Kyuubi wasn't surprised. So, what are you hoping for? Some Zanpakuto trick? It grinned, a cruel look in its eyes. Ninetails was the name everyone used, but only the other eight-tailed beasts knew that each one had a true name given to them by a family member. Maybe this Zanpakuto thing is real. But Kyuubi isn't its true name. Shattering the young man's faith. Now that was beautiful. The Zanpakuto has been released, Naruto said, stepping forward to face it. I've lifted the restraint on you. You can feel it. Kyuubi was taken aback. Chakra detection. That weird sword looked completely different, but that was just the surface. It wasn't just made of Naruto's spiritual energy anymore. Part of it belonged to Kyuubi. He and Naruto had forged this sword together. Interesting, it said, a strange glint in its eyes. It's actually true. I didn't even feel my power being drained. How does it work? Naruto clenched his fists, speaking more to himself than to Kyuubi. Soul Society is real. I hate you so much, Kyuubi. Because of you, so many people have hated me since I was a kid. Because of you, my dad died for the village. I still don't understand why they sealed you inside me. I don't even understand why you, a sealed demon, became the power of my soul. He raised his fist high. The fog of confusion in his mind vanished. If I don't understand, then I don't understand. I'm going to use your power. I'll find my dad, find my mom, and then we'll all understand. Kyuubi swung its tail, its golden eyes fixed on Naruto. This kid's personality is nothing like Minato's. He's more like that red-haired Spitfire, Star. Is that so? It sneered. Then show me what you can do. Dark red chakra surged. It didn't care that Naruto was borrowing its power, that's what all the Jinchuriki did anyway, but Naruto was definitely more interesting than any of them. A new world, a hero rejected by his village. Kyuubi was starting to get excited about the chaos to come. Naruto said nothing more and withdrew from his inner world. The moment he opened his eyes, he was no longer in his neatly kept little hut. He was in the classroom. His teacher stood before him. Back, Star. He was back in Soul Society. The teacher immediately noticed Naruto opening his eyes and saw the changed sword on his lap. Naruto, you heard the name of your Zanpakuto? The surprise was clear in his voice. He'd heard his Zanpakuto's name and mastered the Shirkai right after entering Blade Zen. A genius. Naruto didn't answer right away. He looked around blankly. He scanned the classroom, but nothing had changed. No one seemed confused by his disappearance or appearance. His gaze finally settled on the teacher's surprised face, a surprise that was only about the change in his Zanpakuto. Just like in Konoha, time seemed to have frozen the moment he'd left. Why? Star. He didn't have time to think about it now. Naruto nodded, answering the teacher's question. I think I mastered Shirkai, sensei.